Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Full-Time Hustler Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Feemster, and today we're diving into a topic that's both exciting and a little nerve-wracking for many entrepreneurs: friends and family funding. We're going to explore how to navigate the emotional and financial complexities of borrowing money from the people closest to you. But before we get into that, let me remind you that this episode is brought to you by Moonshine Capital, your go-to marketplace for alternative financing solutions. Now let's get started. Let's kick things off by talking about the emotional dynamics involved when you're considering borrowing money from friends and family. This is a sensitive topic because, let's face it, mixing money and personal relationships can get messy. First off, borrowing from friends and family often comes with emotional support that you won't find from traditional lenders. They believe in you and your vision, and that can be incredibly motivating. But here's the flip side. If things don't go as planned, you risk straining and even damaging those relationships. The emotional toll can be high, not just for you, but for your loved ones as well. So it's crucial to weigh these emotional pros and cons carefully. Ask yourself, is it worth the reward? And am I prepared to handle the emotional complexities that come with this kind of financial arrangement? Moving on to our next segment, let's talk about setting boundaries and expectations. Now, you might think that because you're dealing with friends and family, you can be a bit lax on the formalities. But let me tell you, that's a recipe for disaster. First and foremost, you need to set clear terms and conditions. How much are you borrowing? What's the interest rate, if any? What's the repayment schedule? These are questions that need clear answers. Next, put it in writing. I can't stress this enough. A legal document might seem overkill when you're dealing with loved ones, but it's essential for clarity and protection for both parties. Lastly, manage expectations. Make sure both sides understand not just the financial terms, but also the potential risk and rewards. Open and honest communication is key here. By setting these boundaries, you're not just protecting your business, you're also safeguarding your personal relationships. And that, my friends, is priceless. All right, folks, we're diving into the legal aspects of friends and family funding. Trust me, this is the segment you didn't know you needed, but you'll be glad you stuck around for it. We're covering everything from how much to borrow to the tax implications you should be aware of. Let's get into it. First up, how much should you borrow? This is a delicate balance. You don't want to ask for too little and find yourself short on funds, but you also don't want to borrow so much that repayment becomes a burden. A good rule of thumb is to borrow only what you absolutely need, plus a small buffer for unexpected expenses. And remember, the amount should be clearly stated in your promissory note. Next, let's talk about interest rates. Now, because you're dealing with friends and family, you might be tempted to go for a zero interest loan. While that's generous, it can have tax implications, which we'll get into in a bit. A fair interest rate that's agreeable to both parties is usually the best route. It's also a good idea to check the IRS's applicable federal rates, or AFRs, to make sure you're within legal limits. Moving on to repayment terms, how long should it take to pay back the loan? This should be realistic and based on your projected revenue, whether it's a lump sum after a certain period or monthly installments. Make sure it's something you can commit to. Let's talk collateral. This could be anything from personal assets like a car or home to business assets like equipment or inventory. The key is that it should be something of value that can be easily liquidated in case you default on the loan. So how do you use collateral? It should be clearly stated in your legal agreement what the collateral is and how much will be used in case of default. This gives your lender added security and shows your commitment to repaying the loan. Finally, let's tackle the tax beast. Loans can be considered income or gifts depending on their structure. If you're not charging any interest, or if the interest is below the IRS's applicable federal rates, the IRS might consider it a gift, which could be subject to a gift tax. Also, the lender, your friends and family, may have to report this interest as income. Always consult a tax advisor to navigate these murky waters. So there you have it, folks. The legal aspects of friends and family funding might seem daunting, but they're crucial for protecting both your business venture and your personal relationships. Remember, it's always better to be over-prepared than to find yourself in a sticky situation down the line. All right, listeners, let's dig a little deeper into the pros and cons of friends and family funding. This is where we get real about the benefits and pitfalls. So grab a notepad. You might want to jot some of this down. The pros: lenient terms. First up with the pros, one of the biggest advantages of borrowing from friends and family is the leniency in terms. Traditional lenders have strict criteria, but your loved ones might offer you more favorable conditions. This could mean lower interest rates, flexible repayment schedules, or even grace periods. Another positive is the emotional support. There's something incredibly motivating about having people who are emotionally vested in you also be financially invested in your venture. It's like having your own personal cheerleading squad. Let's not forget the speed of funding. Traditional loans can take weeks or even months to get approved, but with friends and family, you could secure funding in a matter of days or even hours. And how about the fact there are usually no credit checks? If your credit score is less than stellar, this can be a huge advantage. Now let's switch gears and talk about the cons. The most glaring one is the potential for strained relationships. Money matters can bring underlying issues to the surface, and if things go south, you're not just losing a lender, you're damaging a personal relationship. Another downside is the lack of formal scrutiny. While it may seem like a benefit initially, this can actually be a drawback. Without a formal evaluation of your business plan, you might overlook weaknesses that a traditional lender would catch. And let's talk about the elephant in the room: limited funding amounts. Your friends and family might not be able to offer as much capital as a traditional lender, which could limit the scope of your business venture. Last but not least, the legal and tax complications. As we discussed in our previous segment, if you're not careful, you could find yourself in a tax quagmire. Always consult a tax advisor to navigate these waters. So there you have it, a comprehensive look at the pros and cons of friends and family funding. It's not a decision to be taken lightly, and it's crucial to weigh these factors carefully. If you decide to go this route, make sure you're prepared for both the financial and emotional responsibilities that come with it. Moving on to our next segment, let's talk about the cornerstone of any successful friends and family funding venture: communication and transparency. First and foremost, maintain an open dialogue. This isn't just a one time conversation where you get the check and then avoid eye contact for the next 6 months. Regular updates are key. Keep your lenders in the loop about how business is doing, how their money is being used, and any challenges that you're facing. Next, be honest. If things aren't going as planned, don't sugarcoat it. It's better to be upfront about problems as they arise rather than letting them fester and potentially become bigger issues down the line. And don't underestimate the power of formal updates. Whether it's a monthly email newsletter or a quarterly report, formal updates not only keep your lenders informed, but also make you look more professional. Remember, when you're transparent and communicate effectively, you're not just maintaining a financial relationship, you're also nurturing the personal relationship that made the loan possible in the first place. So there you have it, folks. Communication and transparency aren't just buzzwords. They're the backbone of successful friends and family funding. All right, let's dive even deeper into the world of exit strategies and payback plans. This is the segment where we talk about the what ifs and what happens next in friends and family funding. Trust me, you want to pay close attention to this one. First, let's reiterate why an exit strategy is crucial. It's your safety net, your plan B, and sometimes even your plan C. It's what keeps your personal relationships intact if the business ventures faces challenges. One common exit strategy is a buyout. This is where you agree to pay back the loan amount plus a predetermined profit percentage. It's a clean, straightforward way to close the financial loop. Another option is debt conversion, where the loan is converted into equity in the business. This can be beneficial if the business is growing but not generating enough cash flow for repayments. Also, there's asset liquidation is another strategy. If the business has valuable assets but isn't profitable, selling off assets to repay the loan can be an option. Let's talk about some examples of exit strategies. Let's say you borrowed $10,000 from your cousin. A buyout could look like repaying the $10,000 plus a 10% profit, totaling $11,000 by a specific date. Or in the case of debt conversion, that $10,000 loan could be converted into a 10% ownership stake into the business, giving your cousin or friends and family and lender a longer term investment rather than a quick payback. Some examples of debt conversion. Debt conversion can be a win win, but needs to be handled carefully. For example, if your business is valued at $100,000 and you owe your sister $10,000, converting that debt into a 10% equity stake could be a fair deal. However, this means your sister now has a say in how the business is run. So make sure you're comfortable with this dynamic. So, how do you choose the best exit strategy? Consider factors like your business's financial health, your comfort level with giving up equity, and the lender's expectations. If your business is growing rapidly but cash poor, debt conversion might be a good option. If you're confident about your business's profitability and want to maintain full control, a buyout could be the way to go. Remember, the best exit strategy is the one that's mutually beneficial and agreed upon by both parties. And as always, consult with a financial and legal advisor to make sure you're making the best decision for both you and your business and your personal relationships. All right, we've covered the emotional dynamics, set some boundaries, and even waded through the legal swamp. Now let's switch gears and talk about some alternative solutions to friends and family funding. And who better to discuss this than our very own Moonshine Capital? That's right, folks. It's time for some shameless self-promotion. But stick with me. You're going to want to hear this. First up, let's talk about revenue-based financing. This is a fantastic option for businesses with a strong revenue streams, but perhaps not enough assets for traditional loan. You repay the loan as a percentage of your revenue, making it a flexible solution that scales with your business. Are you a freelancer, a consultant, or part of the gig economy? Then we've got you covered with our self-employed loans and gig worker funding. These are tailored to meet the unique financial needs and cash flow patterns of independent workers. Next, there's instant funding. And speaking of quick solutions, we offer instant funding through our affiliate partner marketplace. Perfect for those when you need cash in a hurry. This option can get you the funds you need almost immediately. Next, let's discuss lines of credit. Unlike a traditional loan where you get a lump sum up front, a line of credit allows you to draw funds up to a certain limit as and when you need them. It's like having a financial safety net for your business. Also, there's equipment financing. If your business relies on expensive machinery or technology, this can be a game changer. Instead of paying for the equipment up front, you can finance it and make manageable monthly payments. Next, there's 0% business credit card stacking. This is a fantastic way to get access to capital without paying interest for a set period. It involves stacking multiple 0% interest credit cards to fund your business needs. Last, what about using personal loans for startup funding? Are you in the startup phase and need a personal loan? We've got options for you. These are designed to give you the initial push you need to get your venture off the ground so that you can apply for other forms of financing. So why choose Moonshine Capital over friends and family funding? Well, it's simple. We offer professional, tailored solutions without the emotional baggage. Plus, with our range of services, you're not just getting funding, you're getting a financial partner. If you're interested in learning more, head over to our website at www.distilledfunding.com or follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Distilled Funding. Trust me, your future self and probably your friends and family will thank you. Okay, we've reached one of my favorite parts of the show, listener questions. We've got some great ones today that touch on various aspects of friends and family funding. Our first question comes from Sarah, who asks, is it a good idea to borrow from multiple family members? Great question, Sarah. The answer really depends on your comfort level and the dynamics of your family. Just remember, the more people involved, the more complex the emotional and financial landscape becomes. Next up, we have a question from Mike, who wants to know, how do I approach a friend about a loan without making it awkward? The age-old question. My advice? Be direct, be honest, and make sure to separate the business conversation from your friendship. Choose a neutral setting to discuss it, and be prepared with all your details. And the final question for today comes from Emily, who asks, what if a family member offers to invest in my business instead of giving a loan? Interesting twist, Emily. An investment changes the dynamics quite a bit, as your family member would then have equity in the business. Make sure you're comfortable with that arrangement and consult a legal advisor to iron out the details. What a journey we've been on today, folks. From the emotional roller coaster of mixing money and relationships to the nitty-gritty legal aspects, we've covered a lot of ground. And let's not forget those alternative financing solutions from Moonshine Capital, your one-stop shop for all things financial. Friends and family funding is a complex landscape, filled with both opportunities and pitfalls. But remember, at the end of the day, it's not just about the money. It's about nurturing and preserving those invaluable personal relationships. After all, those are the connections that make the entrepreneurial journey worthwhile. If you're considering this route, I hope today's episode has given you the tools and insights you need to navigate it successfully. And if you decided it's not for you, that's okay too. There are plenty of other financing options out there, and Moonshine Capital is always here to help guide you through them. Before we wrap up, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who sent in their questions. Your curiosity is what fuels this show, and we couldn't do it without you. Keep those questions coming for future episodes. And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Full-Time Hustler. If you found value in today's show, please consider subscribing, leave a rating, and leave a review. It helps us reach more hustlers like you. Until next time, keep hustling, keep dreaming, and keep turning those dreams into reality. This is Jason Feimster signing off. Take care, everyone.